Hello everyone, and thank you for coming back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm. I am your host, Peter, aka LPT8 Dubuque, and this week has been a very interesting week for me because I've been kind of sitting around thinking about what are some of the things that a lot of newcomers want me to cover. And I've asked myself a couple times these kind of questions, and there's one that keeps coming up, and it's about gloving history. And the reason why this keeps coming up is because our history is a little murky, and there's not much coverage on it necessarily, and there's something wrong with that in my opinion. So here's the thing I want to do when it comes to this particular episode, is that I actually kind of want to break this down into certain sections so people can understand and enjoy each little part of gloving history instead of it all being thrown at you at once. So where I'm going to start is with the origins. Now, I can certainly tell you that I know a lot of people are probably going to sit here and debate and argue and yell at each other and have pissing contests over when exactly gloving started. And I will certainly tell you, I'm not the type of person who's going to sit here and say, well, this is when it actually started, because there's just so many points in history that we can sit here and extrapolate as gloving's origin history thing that there's no real point to it. So I will certainly say that if we had any earliest inclinations of what gloving was going to be, then sure, maybe you can count Greg Irwin's video of 1988 when he was on Johnny Carson and he showed his finger ballet. That is probably your earliest iterations in terms of a recorded performance that had any reflection that gloving was going to be. Okay, you can choose that point as your starting point. Where most people choose the starting point for gloving is Hermes' video that he posted in April of 2006. We're not saying per se that is the origin of gloving and he was the first one to ever do it.
No one has ever done that. No one has ever done that in the history of Dota.
You know, that's not the point, and that's not the case. The point why everyone always talks about Hermes' video is that that's where we are going to start its earliest point of a recorded, documented point of actual gloving. Okay, what is gloving now? That's the earliest iteration that we have recorded and documented. Okay, that's what people talk about when they refer to Hermes' video, is that is our first documented, recorded light show of gloving. Now, if you can find something that was posted way earlier than that actually has gloves on with lights in them, then please be my guest and share that so we can actually have an earlier account of when it actually was documented. But I want to stress, and I mean seriously stress to everybody, that when it comes to Hermes' video, it is only being referred to as the start just because that is the earliest documented recorded show. Okay? Can we all keep that in mind moving forward? Maybe? Just a little bit?
You're not my dad!
No? Okay, fine, that's fine. Yeah. But yes, that's what most people will point to is Hermes' video. You know, I've had some people who do use Greg Irwin 1988 video and Johnny Carson as the earliest iteration of gloving, which I can totally understand where you come from, because literally what he's doing in there is things that we do today in terms of gloving, alright? And I get that, and it totally makes sense. But, you know, that's one of the things I just need to stress to a lot of newcomers and a lot of people who just don't know the history of gloving. Is that, yes, we don't know exactly who was the very first glover. Like, you know what I mean? And people are going to sit here and be like, oh, well, liquid dancing actually became before gloving and tutting became before gloving. Yes, everything that gloving uses really pulled out from other outside sources to culminate into the smorgasbord that is gloving now. I get that. That is not the point. I want to just stress that these are the points that people use to codify our origins. You know, where do I sit in on that? I'm going to go with the Hermes video. It's just because it's a documented, recorded thing that we can actually find and track in terms of timestamping. But again, I feel like I'm putting too much stress and emphasis on this particular point.
That's what she said.
So, moving on from there, where exactly was Hermes when he recorded his video? Well, he was at a rave in Southern California. A lot of people are probably also going to argue where, in terms of geographical location, where does Gloving first start? A lot of people are going to point to Southern California. Some people are going to point to the other big places like Atlanta or New York or any of the other big metropolis areas, maybe even Chicago or Detroit. It doesn't really matter. Again, when people come to its starting point, we just use Hermes' video as a good starting point because it's an actual documented thing.
You what?
So, yes, in the earliest iterations of Gloving, most people are going to just tell you that it came from Southern California. Yes, maybe there was a couple of areas where it popped up before, it really blown up in Southern California. But people are going to look at Southern California as the origin point of where it really took off. And that's where it did. It started spreading around really quickly through the rave scene in Southern California. And it wasn't until about like 2008 where it really started to spread outside of California and actually start going into the other states like Arizona and Nevada and Colorado, New York and Georgia and Texas and Illinois and Montana, for crying out loud, other places. And that's where we see a lot of things. Now, when it came to how Glovers kind of actually communicated, yes, we did have some of those other forum websites, like Plur Nation was an example. I can't remember half of these websites anymore because I don't even think most of them are even up and running anymore. If they still are, then kudos to them. I know from my experience when I was really starting out, Don't Stay In was the website for Arizona Glovers to actually hit up and hook up and meet up that way. It was just because that's how we were able to keep track of the racing in Arizona was on don'tstayin.com. So again, I don't know if these domains are still working. I didn't really take the time to actually really codify and see if those are still valid websites, domains. So if they're still available, they're still available. If not, then talk about the time of history.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But some of the other things that was kind of shocking to me when it comes to Gloving history is that if you go on something like wikipedia.com or .org, .org.
It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
It's actually quite interesting seeing how much information they have on Gloving.
Oh, good for you!
It's not that much, people. I honestly just checked today how many words are in literally the definition for Gloving on Wikipedia. It's 150. 150. Why? There's so many things that we've had go on, and yet there's just so very little information on Gloving, and it's so weird that it is like that. I don't know. But it's one of those things that when I saw it, I was like, wow, this actually really sucks and it probably needs to change. So what I'm trying to do is actually help a lot of the newcomers just really understand where we come from in terms of Gloving and where we came from in terms of our origins. So I would certainly say that if I was going to pinpoint things, is that in 2006 is the first real iteration of like Gloving being what Gloving is. And it started in Southern California and it spread very quickly through the years. Within 2 years, it went from just being a thing in Southern California to all over the place. And one major event that I want to iterate, which is the last point on this very little segment of Gloving history, which is our beginnings and origins, is there's one singular event that really changed the entire course of Gloving's future. And it was a very scary time because of what was going on.
Oh shit, here we go again.
If you weren't around during this time, in the summer of 2010, Insomniac Events hosted a festival called the Electric Daisy Carnival in Los Angeles.
Say what?
Yes, EDC used to be in LA. I know it sounds crazy, but it was there. This particular event is what really sparked this crazy notion when it comes towards flow art, in particular to Gloving. And again, you are going to see this pop back up over and over and over again throughout the rest of this history. But when it comes to gloving and its major point of stigma, this is the point where it all massively started. So, EDCLA 2010. It's the summertime. There's a lot of people showing up there. I mean, over 100,000 people are showing up. 150,000 people were there. This event had a lot of things going for it. We had a huge spike in underage participants attending this festival. We have had a number of deaths and overdose in terms of drug-related usage that occurred at this event. There was essentially a run on the bank style situation that happened at this event. What do I mean by that? I mean, there was a point where people were literally hopping over the fence and completely trampling through the entryway point, stomping on each other, trying to get into this event. Like, if there was a point where things got extremely chaotic in the EDM scene, this is where it really got chaotic. Like, I mean, people were literally mobbing over the fence. Like, I remember seeing the footage of people literally hopping over this fence and people literally being pulled out of the access points that to get into the stadium. Like, literally seeing this, like, a girl get pulled out of this pile of people literally stacked on top of each other like pancakes. Like, it was, again, if there was any point that we've ever seen so much chaos and pandemonium happen in an EDM event, EDC LA 2010 is like the quintessential example of like how things got crazy. However, there was one particular death that happened. Okay, and I'm not trying to downplay this. I am literally trying to explain the facts of the case, as my mom would put it, being a paralegal that she is. Here are the facts of the case. That yes, there was a female named Sasha Rodriguez who attended EDCLA 2010. The facts of the case do show that she did pass away at the event due to drug-related suspicions, as they would put it. I am only quoting what was stated through the articles and things like that. I am not trying to make any assumptions, nor am I trying to put words in the mouths of the people who came up with these articles. So, like I'm saying, it is suspected with drug overdose and things like that. What happened necessarily is kind of irrelevant now. There's nothing we can do. It's over 10 years old. Okay, it happened over 10 years now. Actually, if I remember correctly, it happened literally 1 decade ago to the date, or to the month, because this is the month of July. Anyways, what this did, it sparked a huge outrage uproar in the media. Like, I mean, we're talking Dr. Phil, Oprah, Rachel Ray talk shows. We're literally having people come onto the show to talk about drug use in the racing. And I mean, it was like,
Expose him! Expose him!
you know, the EDM scene went under a huge amount of scrutiny, and Sasha's mother was all over the TV. Like, in all honesty, this whole situation was just not good at all, because I literally felt like they were taking Sasha and taking her death and literally parading it around all over the media, and I felt that was more disrespectful to her than actually bringing up a level of awareness, because just how they went about it, it just felt like a massive witch hunt against people. Anyone who listened to and they were even calling EDM music techno. And like, we even had people on there who were saying like, it's not techno, it's called EDM because it's an umbrella term. And they're just like, nope, techno. Literally watching the media kind of just stereotype the crap out of the EDM scene and made us look like complete monsters, and that all we care about is just drug use and all this stuff. And it's just like,
Run.
it was a disaster. Okay, it was literally the worst disaster in my opinion when it comes to gloving history, and especially in the EDM scene, because of how bad this got. Now, yes, the EDM scene has a very long history when it comes to like the late 80s into the 90s, when you had the club kid scene, especially with Michael Alec and James St. James. Like, yes, that was a major part for the scene as well. You know, and in the later 90s, we had the Just Say No campaign through the Reagans, and it just, It just did not work out very well. And this is one of those particular points that when it came to EDC LA 2010, gloving got hit in terms of collateral damage. Okay, it was a reaction from these event organizers and these concert venue places. They had this knee-jerk reaction where they were like, okay, we gotta put a ban on a whole bunch of stuff. Anything that can be construed as drug use or drug paraphernalia, they needed to squash it. Like, they had to shut it down. And I get it. I definitely get it, because you're trying to provide an image about what the EDMC is all about, and I get it. However, one of the things I find so freaking interesting is that when they started banning a bunch of stuff out of the EDM scene to try to do PR control, gloving got hit. LED gloves were on that list. And I mean, this sparked a whole slew of problems going forward. But to the people who don't understand where the gloving ban comes from and why we have such a gloving ban, this is that point. Okay, this is where it all started going crazy for glovers. All right, now there is some good that actually happened that came out of this whole situation. We had IGC be created. We had the competition scene actually start to grow and flourish. This is where gloving started pushing themselves away from the EDM scene and actually show that, this isn't just some, drug-fueled hobby thing. Like, this is actually a legitimate art form and that we want to be recognized as such. Okay, this is that point where I felt like, gloving and the gloving community really actually banded together in solidarity, is because we were being threatened. We were literally, our existence was being threatened. Okay, and that's something that I want to stress very heavily to a lot of the newcomers, is that this is the particular point that we were being threatened. And in the next iteration of gloving history, I will explain how the community actually got together and we formed IGC and actually kept the scene alive outside of the EDM scene. But yes, that is pretty much all for my episode. I know it is really crazy to sit here and think of like how gloving started and like what happened to gloving 4 years after its initial, I don't want to say inception, but its starting point where it just started to grow. Okay, in 2006 is where I want to say it started to grow and become a thing. And when it comes to the gloving ban, it's just something you guys need to understand, that this happened 10 years ago. I know some people are like, oh my god, it's just so old and outdated. No, again, in the next iteration of this type of episode, I will explain further of like where people, like how we have been dealing with the gloving ban and like how we've been moving forward from that. Okay, but if you have any questions that I did not cover in this episode, or any gloving related historical questions that I did not cover in this episode, please ask me. I want to help answer those questions for you. And you do have the many various social media outlets you can hit me up at. Of course, I do have a Facebook page, which is aptly named The Gloving Paradigm. Again, all these links are going to be in my description below, so do not hesitate to click on any of them. Please go down there. They're there for a reason. But yes, you can hit me up on my Facebook page. I'm always very responsive there. I am also on Reddit under the username MuttonChopGuy, and my email is muttonchopguy@gmail.com. Those are two other places you can hit me up at. I've actually been getting a lot of conversations happening out of Reddit recently, which has been very interesting for me. So, do not hesitate to actually use Reddit if you like using Reddit as a platform to talk to me. And of course, I do have my email. I try to keep it as private as possible. No one will ever know about what you and I are talking about. And of course, I do have a Discord server for anybody who wants to show support to the show. You can always go on there. It's absolutely for free. But there's one other thing I definitely want to let you guys know, that if you do like the content that I create and you wish to help support and further the development of making better content for glovers, please consider supporting me on Patreon. As little as $1 a month goes a long ways to keep the lights on, keep the show going, and getting me one step closer to my first goal of making $1,000 a month, so that way I can do this full time and don't have to do a day job to keep it going. So you do have those places. I also do have an Instagram and a YouTube channel. You guys can go on there. I know I've been a little slacking on backlogging on the YouTube channel stuff. There's a lot of stuff on my plate, and I'm trying to figure out how to balance it all, because I got a lot of projects, and there's just certain projects I don't want to let go of. This is how I am. So I definitely am working on those. But yes, those are all the various outlets you can hit me up at. All those links will be down in the description below. Please do not hesitate to ask me any questions. I am literally just here trying to help you guys out. I want to help further the development of gloving and make it even better. So if you guys can just give me that kind of support and help me, and just give me the questions you guys have about gloving, so that way I can help you guys. It's just what I try to do. But yes, that is all for my episode. I would like to thank everybody who has liked the page so far and who has shown support to the show so far. It's absolutely amazing to see that kind of support. You know, it makes me motivated to keep going and not stop. You know, so once again, thank you to everybody who has showed your support. I absolutely love you guys. But I am your host, Peter, aka LPD8 Dubuque, and I'll see you guys all next week.